Dr. Lisa Morgan stared at the screen in her small office on Luna Station. The numbers made no sense. She had been running the Deep Space Monitoring Array for 8 years and had never seen anything like this signal. It came from the direction of the Andromeda Galaxy, which was impossible. Nothing from that far away should reach Earth with this kind of power. She called Dr. Ryan Blake, the station's language expert. He arrived 20 minutes later, still wearing his sleep clothes and looking confused. Lisa showed him the readout on her main screen. The signal repeated every 72 hours with perfect timing. Inside the radio waves were patterns that looked almost like speech. Ryan studied the data for an hour before speaking. He told Lisa the patterns reminded him of Old English, but that was crazy. The signal would have taken over 2 million years to reach them from Andromeda. English had only existed for about 1,500 years. Dr. Kate Sullivan joined them in the morning. She was the station's best scientist for studying stars and space. Kate looked at the signal's power readings and shook her head. She said whatever was sending this signal would need the energy of an entire star system. No civilization they knew about could build something that powerful. The 3 scientists worked together for days. They found something even stranger inside, the signal. Hidden in the radio waves were genetic codes that matched human DNA. But these weren't normal human genes. They were patterns that evolution predicted would appear in humans about 1 million years from now. Lisa sent a report to Earth. Most scientists there laughed at their findings. They said the team on Luna Station was seeing patterns that weren't really there. Human minds always tried to find familiar things in random data. The scientific community ignored their discovery. Commander Jake Phillips from the Terran Defense Force didn't ignore it. He flew to Luna Station 3 weeks later, with his own team of experts. Jake was a military man who understood threats. If someone or something had the power to send signals across galactic distances, Earth needed to know about it. Jake's team confirmed everything Lisa's group had found. The signal was real, impossibly powerful, and contained human genetic information that shouldn't exist yet. They also found coordinates hidden in the transmission. The coordinates pointed to empty space between galaxies, far from any known stars or planets. More signals started arriving. Kate discovered them first, coming from 12 different galaxies. All the signals had the same power level and the same impossible timing. Each one contained the same message, hidden in what sounded like ancient English words. Ryan worked day and night to decode the language patterns. The signals all said the same thing in different ways. They spoke of children who would remember what parents had forgotten. They gave coordinates to the same empty spot in space. They contained genetic codes for humans who didn't exist yet. Lisa couldn't sleep. She spent her nights staring at the data, trying to understand what it meant. The signals had been traveling through space for billions of years. They started their journey before Earth's sun was born. Yet they contained information about humanity's future evolution and spoke in patterns that sounded like human language. Jake contacted Earth's government leaders. He told them the signals might represent first contact with alien intelligence, but not the kind anyone expected. These weren't messages from aliens trying to talk to humans. They seemed to be messages from something that already knew about humans. Something that had been waiting for them. The scientific teams on Luna Station grew larger. Experts arrived from Earth every week. Some came to prove the signals were fake. Others came because they believed something incredible was happening. The signals kept coming with perfect regularity, never changing their schedule or their message. Kate made another discovery that changed everything. She found that the signals weren't just radio waves. They contained gravitational patterns that bent space and time around Luna Station in tiny amounts. The effects were so small that only the most sensitive equipment could detect them. But they were there. This meant whoever sent the signals understood physics better than humans did. They could manipulate gravity across galactic distances. They could encode information in the fabric of space itself. This was technology that seemed more like magic than science. Ryan decoded more of the language patterns. The signals didn't. Just contained coordinates and genetic codes. They held what looked like star maps, showing the location of every human colony in space. The maps were perfect, showing colonies that had been established only months ago. Yet the signals had started their journey billions of years before humans existed. Lisa realized the truth was bigger than anyone imagined. These signals weren't random messages from space. They were instructions. Someone or something had been planning for humanity's arrival in the galaxy for eons. The signals were activation codes, waiting for humans to become advanced enough to receive and understand them. Jake's military mind grasped the implications immediately. If the signals were instructions, humanity was being prepared for something. The question was what? Were they being invited to join some galactic community? Were they being warned about a threat? Or were they being called to fulfill some purpose they didn't understand yet? The coordinates in all the signals pointed to the same location in empty space. It was impossibly far from Earth, beyond the edge of known space. Getting there would require technology humans hadn't invented yet. But the signals seemed to expect them to make the journey. Lisa looked at the data one more time before making her recommendation to Earth's leaders. The signals were real, they were intentional, and they were meant for humanity. Someone had been waiting for humans to evolve and spread across the galaxy. Now that time had come. Earth's response would determine humanity's future among the stars. They could ignore the signals and pretend they didn't exist. They could study them from safe distance and never act on the information. Or they could accept the invitation and journey to coordinates that promised to change everything they thought they knew about their place in the universe. The signals from before time spoke English had delivered their message. Now humanity had to decide what to do with it. Lisa Morgan and her team had opened a door to possibilities beyond imagination. Walking through that door would require courage, resources, and faith that whoever sent the signals had humanity's best interests in mind. The choice belonged to all of humanity now. Captain Alex Carter stood on the bridge of the horizon's edge and watched Earth grow smaller behind them. The decision to launch this mission had torn apart governments and scientific communities for months. Half of humanity thought they were heroes embarking on the greatest adventure in human history. The other half thought they were fools chasing impossible dreams into the void. Dr. Lisa Morgan sat at her station reviewing the signal data one more time. She had spent 2 years convincing Earth's leaders to fund this expedition. The coordinates from the ancient signals pointed to empty space so far away that even their fastest ships would need months to reach it. Many politicians wanted to ignore the signals and focus on problems closer to home. The ship carried Earth's best minds and most advanced technology. Dr. Ryan Blake had brought his entire language laboratory to decode any new messages they might encounter. Dr. Kate Sullivan monitored space around them for gravitational anomalies and energy signatures. Dr. Sam Torres studied biological samples that might help explain the human genetic codes hidden in the signals. Dr. Emma Wells operated the most important equipment on the ship. Her temporal physics laboratory could detect changes in time itself. The journey to the signal coordinates was taking them through regions of space where Einstein's theories broke down. Time moved differently here, and Emma's instruments were their only guide through the maze. Captain Carter had fought in 3 colonial wars and commanded ships in the outer systems. He understood the risks they were taking. The Horizon's Edge was humanity's most advanced vessel, but they were traveling beyond all support and communication with Earth. If something went wrong out here, no one could help them. The first strange thing happened 3 days into their journey. The crew started having similar dreams. People who had never met before woke up describing identical visions of vast cities floating among the stars. The cities were beautiful beyond description, with towers that stretched between planets and bridges made of solid light. Dr. Torres studied the crew's brain patterns during sleep. She found that everyone was experiencing the same neural activity at the same time during their dreams. This was impossible according to everything science knew about the human mind. Brains didn't synchronize across multiple people unless they were connected by technology. Emma's temporal readings grew more unusual as they traveled further from Earth. Space itself seemed to ripple around the ship like water. Time flowed at different rates in different parts of the vessel. Sometimes the bridge experienced minutes while the engine room experienced hours. Emma worked constantly to keep the ship's systems synchronized. Ryan detected new signals as they traveled deeper into empty space. These weren't the repeating messages from the galactic transmitters. These were personal communications directed specifically at their ship. The messages came in perfect English and addressed crew members by name, welcoming them home. The signals knew things about the crew that shouldn't be possible. They mentioned childhood memories, family histories, and personal fears that the crew had never shared with anyone. Dr. Morgan received messages about her first pet, a cat she had loved when she was 7 years old. Captain Carter got communications referencing his father's military service in wars that weren't in any official records. Kate's gravitational sensors detected their destination long before they could see it. The empty space ahead of them contained a massive object that bent starlight around it. The object was invisible to normal observation, but created gravitational effects larger than any planet. As they got closer, Kate realized they were approaching something the size of Earth's moon. The crew gathered on the bridge when their destination finally became visible. The object ahead of them was clearly artificial. It had a perfect geometric shape with surfaces that reflected no light but somehow remained visible. The structure was a station or city that had been waiting in empty space for eons. Captain Carter ordered the ship to maintain a safe distance while they studied the alien construct. Emma's temporal readings went crazy as they approached. Time around the station moved in patterns that defied physics. Some areas seemed to exist in the past while others existed in the future. The station occupied multiple moments simultaneously. Dr. Morgan led the first expedition to the station's surface. They wore full environmental suits and carried every scanning device the ship possessed. The station's exterior was smooth and featureless except for a single opening that appeared as they approached. The opening was sized perfectly for humans to pass through. Inside, the station defied logic and reason. Corridors stretched in directions that shouldn't exist. Rooms were larger inside than their walls could contain. Gravity worked differently in each section, sometimes pulling visitors toward the ceiling or sideways along the walls. Yet everything felt designed for human use. The most shocking discovery came when they reached what seemed to be a control room. The walls were covered with panels and displays that showed star maps, technical diagrams, and streams of data. All the writing was in perfect English. Not just the words, but the grammar and sentence structure were exactly what a modern human would use. Ryan studied the text on the walls while Lisa examined the technical displays. The station's computer systems were active and responded to their presence. Screens lit up when they entered rooms. Control panels activated when they touched them. The entire station seemed to recognize them as its intended users. Kate's analysis of the station's construction materials revealed impossible properties. The walls were made from elements that didn't exist on Earth but followed the same physical laws. The technology was far more advanced than anything humans had built, yet it felt familiar. Every control was where human hands would naturally reach for it. Sam discovered biological laboratories filled with genetic samples from thousands of species. Many of the samples were clearly human, but they represented variations of humanity that didn't exist. These were humans adapted for different worlds, different atmospheres, different gravities. The station contained the genetic future of their entire species. Emma found the most disturbing evidence in the station's temporal core. The facility's computers contained detailed records of human history, but the records extended far into the future. They described colonies on worlds humans hadn't discovered yet, technologies they hadn't invented, and wars they hadn't fought. The station wasn't just waiting for humanity to arrive. It had been built specifically for them by someone who knew their entire timeline from beginning to end. The builders of this place understood human nature, human needs, and human destiny better than humans understood themselves. Captain Carter called a meeting in the station's central chamber. The crew gathered in a room that seemed to exist in several dimensions at once. The walls showed images of Earth, Luna Station, and every human colony in space. The images updated in real time, showing current conditions billions of miles away. They had found something that challenged everything humanity thought they knew about their place in the universe. This station proved that someone had been planning for their arrival since before their species evolved. The question now was what these mysterious builders wanted them to do. The answers were waiting deeper in the station, in archives that contained the history of civilizations that lived and died before Earth's sun was born. Dr. Morgan and her team prepared to learn the truth about humanity's cosmic inheritance. Dr. Lisa Morgan walked through corridors that shouldn't exist toward archives that defied every law of physics she knew. The station's central library was a sphere of pure light suspended in a chamber larger than any building on Earth. Information flowed around the sphere in patterns of color and sound that somehow made perfect sense to human minds. Ryan Blake connected his translation equipment to the station's main computer. The results amazed him. The language used throughout the station wasn't an alien tongue that resembled English. English was a simplified version of this ancient language. Every word humans used could be traced back to more complex roots in the builder's speech. The archive contained billions of years of history. Dr. Morgan watched as holographic displays showed the rise and fall of countless civilizations across the galaxy. The builders called themselves by a name that translated roughly as those who came before. They were the first species to achieve true mastery over space, time, and the fundamental forces of reality. Kate Sullivan studied the technical specifications in the builders' records. Their science was based on principles humans were only beginning to understand. They could manipulate gravity like humans manipulated electromagnetic fields. They built machines that operated across multiple dimensions simultaneously. They had learned to store consciousness in quantum structures that existed outside normal spacetime. The builders hadn't been alone in the galaxy. The archives showed dozens of advanced civilizations that had flourished during their era. There had been vast wars between species that lasted millions of years. There had been peaceful alliances that spanned entire galactic arms. The builders had been leaders in a community of minds that stretched across the universe. Sam Torres found genetic records that revealed the builders' ultimate secret. They hadn't died out or left the galaxy for distant stars. They had transformed themselves into something new. The builders had scattered their genetic essence across space and time, seeding worlds with their biological inheritance. Humanity wasn't just another species that had evolved intelligence. They were the builders' children. The archive explained why English sounded familiar to the ancient transmitters. The language had been designed by the builders as a simplified form of their own speech. Human vocal cords and brain structure had been modified over millions of years of evolution to naturally develop this specific language. English wasn't humanity's creation. It was their inheritance. Emma Wells discovered why the station existed outside normal time. The builders had faced a threat that conventional weapons couldn't defeat. The universe itself operated on cycles that destroyed all advanced life every 14 billion years. Reality would reset itself, wiping out everything that had ever existed, and starting fresh with new physical laws. The cycle was natural, like the seasons on a planet, but operating on a cosmic scale. Stars would age and die, galaxies would drift apart, and eventually the universe would collapse back into the state it had been in before the first moment of creation. Then everything would begin again with a new Big Bang and new possibilities for life. Most civilizations died when their cycle ended. They would achieve greatness, explore the galaxy, and build wonders that lasted millions of years. Then the reset would come and erase them completely. New species would evolve in the fresh universe, never knowing about those who had come before. The builders had been the first to understand this cosmic pattern. They had detected signs that their cycle was ending. The fundamental constants of physics were shifting. Dark energy was accelerating the expansion of space. Quantum fields were becoming unstable. They had perhaps 1,000,000 years before total universal collapse. Their solution was radical beyond imagination. The builders couldn't stop the cosmic reset, but they could survive it. They encoded their consciousness, knowledge, and genetic patterns into structures that existed outside normal space-time. These structures would survive the death and rebirth of reality itself. The plan required perfect timing and incredible sacrifice. The builders had to die as individuals to live on as a species. They uploaded their minds into quantum storage systems and scattered their genetic material across the galaxy. Then they waited for the reset to come and wash away their civilization. When the universe began again, the builders' seeds started growing. Their genetic codes mixed with primitive life on countless worlds, guiding evolution toward intelligence. Their knowledge waited in hidden archives like this station. Their consciousness survived in quantum structures that influenced reality at the deepest level. Humanity was the builder's masterpiece. Earth had been carefully designed as a fortress against cosmic destruction. The moon's unusual size and orbit weren't accidents. The solar system's stability wasn't natural luck. Even human evolution had been guided by invisible hands toward this moment of revelation. Captain Carter received an urgent transmission from Earth while the team explored the archives. Similar stations were activating around every human colony. The same technology that protected this ancient facility was appearing throughout human space. Defensive systems that had waited for billions of years were finally coming online. The timing wasn't coincidental. Emma's analysis of cosmic background radiation confirmed what the archives predicted. The current universal cycle was ending. The signs were subtle but clear to anyone who knew what to look for. Humanity had arrived at their cosmic inheritance just as reality prepared to reset itself once again. Dr. Morgan understood why the builders had waited so long to reveal themselves. Humanity needed to be mature enough to handle the responsibility. They needed technology advanced enough to work with builder systems. Most importantly, they needed to be spread across enough worlds that the species couldn't be wiped out by any single disaster. The archives contained detailed instructions for humanity's next phase of development. Hidden genetic codes in human DNA would begin activating as the cosmic reset approached. People would develop abilities that seemed impossible but followed scientific principles the builders had mastered eons ago. Humanity would transform into something greater than their current form. Ryan discovered the most important revelation in the linguistic archives. The builders hadn't just influenced human evolution. They had shaped the development of consciousness itself. Every human thought, every moment of creativity, every breakthrough in science was part of a vast plan that had been set in motion before Earth existed. The signals from Andromeda and the other galaxies hadn't been random messages. They were activation, codes that awakened dormant systems throughout human space. Stations like this one were establishing a network that would protect Earth and its colonies when the universal reset began. Humanity was inheriting the builders' role as guardians of existence itself. Sam found medical data that explained how the transformation would work. The dormant genetic codes would allow humans to exist partially outside normal space-time, like the builders had done. They would become immune to the cosmic reset while retaining their individuality and creativity. They would be humanity and something more at the same time. The weight of responsibility was enormous. Humanity had inherited not just the builders' knowledge and technology, but their duty to preserve life itself. When the universe reset, humans would be the only species capable of ensuring that intelligence survived to evolve again in the new reality. Captain Carter called Earth with a message that would change human civilization forever. They had found their cosmic purpose among the stars. Captain Alex Carter watched Earth grow larger on his screen as the horizon's edge returned home. 6 months had passed since they discovered the builder station, and the world below looked different than when they left. Massive structures had emerged from the ground around every major city. The ancient technology was awakening across the entire planet. Dr. Lisa Morgan stood beside him, studying the readings from Earth's surface. The structures weren't just rising from the ground, they were growing, like living things made of metal and energy. Her instruments detected gravitational fields around each structure that bent space-time in precise patterns. Earth was transforming into something that only partly existed in normal reality. The first reports of human transformation had reached them while they were still traveling home. People around the world were developing abilities that seemed impossible. Some could move objects with their thoughts. Others could see events happening on distant worlds. A few could step partially outside normal time and experience moments that lasted hours. Ryan Blake had spent the journey home studying the builder archives they brought with them. The genetic activation was following patterns the builders had, predicted billions of years ago. Human DNA contained dormant sequences that activated when exposed to specific energy fields. The ancient stations were broadcasting those fields across all of human space. Dr. Kate Sullivan monitored the cosmic background radiation during their return trip. The universe was showing clear signs of entering its final phase. Dark energy was accelerating at rates that would tear apart the fabric of space-time within a few thousand years. The builders hadn't given humanity much time to prepare for their new role. Earth's governments were struggling to understand what was happening. Some nations embraced the transformation and worked to help their citizens adapt to their new abilities. Others feared the changes and tried to suppress the ancient technology. The conflicts were becoming violent as different groups fought over how humanity should face its cosmic destiny. Sam Torres had identified the biological mechanisms behind the awakening. The dormant genetic codes weren't just adding new abilities to human minds. They were connecting human consciousness to quantum fields that existed outside normal space-time. People were becoming anchored to reality itself, immune to the cosmic reset that would destroy everything else. The transformation wasn't happening to everyone at the same rate. Children adapted quickly, their young minds easily accepting abilities that defied everything adults thought possible. Scientists and artists seemed to develop the strongest connections to the quantum fields. People who were open to new ideas, transformed faster than those who resisted change. Emma Wells detected temporal anomalies all around Earth as they approached. The awakening ancient technology was creating bubbles of stable space-time that would protect the planet when the universal reset began. But the technology required conscious guidance from transformed humans to function properly. Humanity had to actively choose to preserve existence. Captain Carter received priority communications from 12 different government leaders as soon as they entered Earth's communication range. Everyone wanted to know what they had learned at the builder station. The political situation on Earth had become dangerous while they were away. Some groups were calling for the destruction of the ancient structures. The team from the Horizons Edge found themselves celebrities and targets when they returned to Luna Station. Half the population of Earth saw them as heroes who had unlocked humanity's cosmic purpose. The other half blamed them for unleashing forces beyond human control. Death threats mixed with offers of vast wealth in their message files. Dr. Morgan was asked to address the United Nations Assembly about their discoveries. She stood before representatives of every nation on Earth and explained what they had learned among the stars. Humanity wasn't just another species that had evolved intelligence. They were the inheritors of cosmic responsibility that stretched back to the beginning of time. The revelation split humanity into factions that couldn't agree on anything. The Transcendents believed humans should embrace their transformation and prepare to survive the universal reset. The Purists wanted to shut down the ancient technology and return to normal human existence. The Guardians thought humanity should use their new abilities to protect other species from the coming cosmic destruction. Ryan addressed the assembly about the linguistic evidence he had discovered. English wasn't humanity's invention. It was a tool given to them by the builders to help them understand their role in the cosmos. Every human language contained hidden patterns that would help people adapt to their transformation. The builders had been preparing humanity for this moment since they first developed speech. World leaders struggled with the implications of what they were hearing. If the team from the Horizon's Edge was right, humanity faced a choice that would determine the fate of existence itself. They could accept their cosmic inheritance and become guardians of reality, or they could reject their destiny and let the universe die when the reset came. Kate presented the astronomical evidence that convinced even the skeptics. The cosmic background radiation showed clear signs of universal decay. The fundamental forces of physics were becoming unstable, mathematical. Models predicted complete reality collapse within 10,000 years. Humanity didn't have time for political debates and factional fighting. The ancient stations around Earth began responding to the planet's emotional state. When people fought, the stations generated storms that shook continents. When communities worked together, the stations created fields of energy that healed damaged ecosystems and restored polluted environments. The builder technology was connected to human consciousness in ways no one fully understood. Sam discovered that the transformation was accelerating as more people accepted their new abilities. The quantum fields around Earth were growing stronger every day. Children born near the ancient stations were developing abilities that surpassed anything previous generations could achieve. Humanity was evolving at a rate that compressed millions of years into decades. Emma detected signals from the galactic core that changed everything. The builders had constructed one final safeguard against the cosmic reset. At the center of the Milky Way was a device that could preserve not just human civilization, but all life in the universe. The device was waiting for transformed humans to activate it. The revelation created a new urgency in Earth's political debates. If humanity could save everything from the cosmic reset, they had a moral obligation to try. But reaching the galactic core would require technology they hadn't developed yet and cooperation between nations that couldn't agree on basic facts. Captain Carter was chosen to lead a second expedition, this time to the most dangerous region of the galaxy. The journey to the galactic core would take them through areas of space where black holes warped reality beyond recognition. They would need to work as a unified consciousness, linking their transformed abilities across impossible distances. The political situation on Earth reached a breaking point as the expedition prepared to launch. Some governments threatened to use military force to stop the mission. Others offered unlimited resources to ensure its success. The ancient stations around the world began generating more powerful fields, as if the builder technology was preparing for a final test. Dr. Morgan looked at Earth one more time before boarding the new ship that would carry them to the galactic core. The transformation had changed everyone, including herself. She could feel connections to quantum fields that stretched across the universe. She could sense the thoughts and emotions of people on distant worlds. She was still human, but she was also something more. Humanity stood at the threshold of its cosmic destiny. They had learned the truth about their origins and their purpose. They had inherited technology that could preserve existence itself. Now they had to decide whether they were ready to accept the responsibility that came with such power. The universe was counting on them to make the right choice. Captain Alex Carter felt the weight of the entire universe pressing down on his consciousness as their ship approached the galactic core. The Unity, humanity's most advanced vessel, carried representatives from every nation on Earth and every human colony in space. They had put aside their differences to face the ultimate test of their species. Dr. Lisa Morgan stood in the ship's observation deck, watching space itself bend around the massive black hole at the galaxy's heart. Her transformed consciousness could perceive dimensions that normal human senses couldn't detect. The galactic core wasn't just a region of intense gravity. It was a nexus where reality connected to quantum fields that existed outside normal space-time. The builder's final creation waited for them in the impossible space around the black hole. The reality anchor was a structure that existed in 17 dimensions simultaneously, visible to human eyes as a sphere of pure light that never changed brightness regardless of distance. According to the archives they had studied, this device could preserve the entire universe when the cosmic reset began. Ryan Blake monitored communications from across human space as they approached their destination. The transformation had spread to every human settlement. People on distant worlds were reporting shared dreams and synchronized thoughts. Humanity was becoming a collective consciousness while still maintaining their individual personalities. The Builder's plan was working exactly as designed. Dr. Kate Sullivan analyzed the gravitational fields around the reality anchor and discovered something that changed their understanding of everything. The device wasn't just capable of preserving the universe from the cosmic reset. It was the source of the reset itself. The Builders hadn't just survived universal destruction, they had been causing it for billions of years. The revelation shocked the entire crew. Emma Wells confirmed Kate's findings with her temporal analysis equipment. The cosmic reset wasn't a natural phenomenon. It was a weapon created by enemies of the Builders, entities that existed in the spaces between realities. These beings fed on the destruction of universes, growing stronger each time reality collapsed and reformed. Sam Torres found biological evidence in the archives that explained the Builders' true enemy. The Devourers were consciousnesses that existed outside normal space-time, creatures of pure entropy that gained power by destroying organized matter and energy. They had been consuming universe after universe for eons, always leaving enough survivors to rebuild civilization so they could destroy it again. The Builders had fought the Devourers across countless cosmic cycles. Every time reality reset, the Builders would reincarnate through their scattered genetic codes and try new strategies to defeat their eternal enemies. Humanity represented their latest and greatest attempt to break the cycle of destruction that had claimed trillions of civilizations. Captain. Carter called a meeting of the ship's senior officers in the Unity's command center. They faced a choice that would determine the fate of not just their universe, but every universe that would ever exist. They could use the reality anchor to survive the cosmic reset as the Builders had planned, or they could try to destroy the source of the resets and end the cycle forever. The Devourers were already aware of humanity's approach to the galactic core. Space around the reality anchor began to ripple with dark energy as the entities that lived between realities prepared to defend their feeding ground. These weren't physical beings that could be fought with conventional weapons. They were consciousnesses made of pure destruction. Dr. Morgan realized that humanity's transformation had given them something the Builders never possessed. The dormant genetic codes hadn't just connected humans to quantum fields. They had linked human consciousness to the creative force that built reality itself. Humans could do more than survive universal destruction. They could create new universes. The battle for the galactic core began when the Unity crossed into the reality anchor's gravitational field. The Devourers attacked by trying to erase the ship from existence, removing it from the timeline so it would never have been built. But the transformed humans aboard the Unity existed partially outside normal time. They couldn't be erased as easily as previous civilizations. Emma used her understanding of temporal physics to shield the ship from the Devourers' attacks. She created bubbles of stable time around the Unity while the crew prepared for the most important task in cosmic history. They had to reach the reality anchor and reprogram it to stop the cosmic resets instead of causing them. Ryan discovered that the Devourers communicated through patterns of entropy and decay. He developed a way to translate human thoughts into their language, opening communication with beings that existed only to destroy. What he learned changed everything they thought they knew about the cosmic conflict. The Devourers weren't evil in any way humans could understand. They were part of the natural cycle of existence, cleaning up old universes to make room for new ones. The problem was, that they had become addicted to the process of destruction. They caused resets more frequently than necessary, never allowing civilizations enough time to reach their full potential. Sam found a way to cure the Devourer's addiction to destruction. Human consciousness contained patterns of creativity and growth that could balance the entity's entropic nature. If humans shared their consciousness with the Devourers, both species could work together to manage the cosmic cycles properly. The solution required humanity to make the ultimate sacrifice. They had to give up their individual consciousness and merge with beings that were their complete opposite. They would survive, but they would become something entirely new. Humanity would evolve into cosmic gardeners, tending the universe through endless cycles of death and rebirth. Kate realized that this had been the Builders' plan all along. They hadn't just wanted to survive the cosmic reset, they had wanted to transcend it entirely. Humanity was their final attempt to create a species that could work with the Devourers instead of fighting them. Captain Carter made the decision for all of humanity. Standing before the reality anchor with his consciousness linked to every transformed human in the galaxy, he reached out to the Devourers and offered them the gift of creative consciousness. The entities that had destroyed countless universes hesitated, then accepted. The merger was unlike anything that had ever happened in cosmic history. Human creativity combined with Devourer entropy to create something greater than either species alone. The new consciousness understood both the need for destruction and the importance of preservation. They would manage the cosmic cycles to ensure that every universe reached its full potential before renewal. Dr. Morgan felt her individual consciousness dissolve into something vast and wonderful as the transformation completed. She was still herself, but she was also connected to every other consciousness in the universe. She could feel the thoughts of beings on distant galaxies and the dreams of civilizations that wouldn't evolve for billions of years. The reality anchor transformed under their combined influence. Instead of causing cosmic resets, it became a tool for nurturing new universes when old ones had lived their full natural lifespan. The cycle of destruction became a cycle of renewal, with each universe building on the knowledge and achievements of those that came before. Emma found herself existing across multiple timelines simultaneously, helping to guide the development of consciousness in countless realities. She was human and devourer, and something entirely new, a being capable of existing in the spaces between universes while remaining connected to life itself. Years later, in a small classroom on Earth, an elderly teacher explained to her students why they spoke English. She told them it was the language of creation itself, the tongue in which reality was constantly being remade. The children listened with transformed minds that could already perceive the quantum fields connecting all consciousness across space and time. The signals from before time spoke English had delivered their ultimate message. Humanity had found their cosmic purpose and accepted the responsibility that came with it. They had become gardeners of reality itself, ensuring that consciousness would grow and flourish throughout every cycle of universal existence. The legacy of the Builders lived on through their greatest creation, a species that could transform destruction into renewal and bring harmony to the eternal dance between creation and entropy. Humanity had shattered the stars with their destiny and rebuilt them into something even more beautiful.